Hello, BookTube. As you all know, I've made a book club on this channel, the Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club, where I invite you to get a new infection every month. There are plenty of BookTube book clubs, and I decided to make mine along relatively traditional lines, even though it gave me a little bit of trepidation, and that was to pick a book that isn't in the common domain. So in order to read along, you would have to request it from your library or, buy a copy secondhand or new. And I hesitated at first to put that kind of a requirement on it, but the response has been wonderful so far to the STD Book Club. And so I'm going to continue with that. There are too many candidates that I want to do to start restricting this to the common domain, to things that are out of copyright and can be got for free. You have a wonderful opportunity to do that in both the Classics and Company ongoing event with Micah Cummins and Ann Novella, but also mostly with them. They pick a couple of books that aren't, but most of their books are easy to find. And also Roger's Cheap Old Book Club on Michael K. Vaughn's channel, which is the whole point of it. One of the points of it is that it's all common domain stuff. But with the STD Book Club, a little outlay will probably be required, unless you just want to visit the videos and hear about the books, but not actually get a copy of your own. And I was going to make an announcement for May's Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club pick yesterday, but then I realized that I'd already made 6 videos for that one day, and I don't want the rest of you to band together and get a restraining order against me, so I thought I would wait until today. And for May, we're going to try something different. The Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club will occasionally break new ground, try something new, see if it works. If I were involved in a real world sit down with wine book club, I would advocate for that myself. I would advocate that we try new things. So for May, we're going to do a bit of a hybrid thing. The book that we'll be reading throughout the month, about 150 to 200 pages a week, will be this. One Art, Robert Giroux's collection of the letters of the great American poet Elizabeth Bishop. And the hybrid part will be that throughout the month, I will be strongly encouraging you to read this poet's work as well, starting with, of course, with the poem that has the title, One Art, but moving on to everything else. She didn't write a large body of work, so it's easily possible to read everything that she wrote in 1 month. And to sit with it, to ponder with it, move it around in your mind, say it out loud, think about it, read it slowly, pick and choose your poems. This is a poet that will reward you for a lifetime of reading and rereading, and whose lines and images will come to your mind unbidden at odd moments in your life. You'll be in a waiting room. You'll be by the side of the road with a flat tire waiting for the car service to come along. And that circumstance, some comment by a friend, will suddenly call to mind one of her lines, which to my mind has always been a yardstick that poet is speaking the truth, that poet's verse is true. That has always been one of the ways that I use to determine whether or not that's true. I will not be including a line-by-line or verse-by-verse analysis of the poems in May's Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club. I'm not going to do that because I feel like that's above my pay grade. But I do want to strongly encourage you to read these poems instead of just reading the letters of the person who wrote them. This is a 700-page book, so we'll break it up. I think May is another month that has an extra weekend. We'll just break it up to between 150 and 200 pages a week, starting on the first weekend of May. And it's a letter collection of letters written over the lifetime of a poet whose life is fairly well known. There have been biographies; some of them have been very good. There's, of course, encyclopedia entries, so there's no chance of spoiling things. So if you read 100 pages for that first weekend and I'm talking about 200 pages, I won't be spoiling anything, I promise. We're going to try it out. Never done a letters collection before on the Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club, and we've never done a hybrid collection either, a hybrid approach, where in addition to the book, I very much want you to be revisiting or visiting for the first time this poet's poetry. The book is a masterpiece. We'll talk about that when we start the read-along, but the poetry is wonderful too. This is one of the greatest poets in American history. Well worth time for you to make her acquaintance if you haven't made her acquaintance already, especially if you've only encountered her with 1 poem or 2 in an anthology in college. always a good idea when a poet is worth it, and Elizabeth Bishop is very much worth it. It's always a good idea to do a nice, solid, deep dive into that poet. Now we're going to do letters, her looking at her life and at the people that she knows, all the writers and artists that she knows. But the poetry will be right there, hovering over all of it. There's no way to separate the two. I will be trying to separate the two for the purposes of the book club, because I'm not sure that anybody wants my commentary on any of the great poems. But I want to urge you to read them as well. But the outlay, the ask, the cash part of the book club is to find a copy of One Art. Now, this thing was a surprise hit. It was reviewed everywhere. It did really well. So it had a lot of copies printed. It shouldn't be hard for you to find a copy. But, of course, as always with the Steve Tiberius Donoghue Book Club, let me know if you want me to try and find you a copy as well. I go out and about sometimes, and whenever I do, I gather books like lint. So I might find a copy, and if you live in the lower 48 of the continental United States, I would be happy to send it to you. But anyway, that's just a quick announcement video. That's what we'll be doing for May. Really, it's Elizabeth Bishop in the round, because I'm encouraging you to read the poetry. But we will also be going through this long, glorious letter collection, one of the greatest letter collections ever made. And that's what we'll be doing for the month of May. So I hope you'll join me, and I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.